Today I'm sharing 3 amazing tofu recipes that are so good they'll convert any tofu skeptic. We've got some addictive tofu tenders that both kids and adults will love, a quick and delicious sandwich that I love to meal prep for lunch, and we're gonna get started with a super flavorful Southeast Asian dish that is perfect for hot weather. In Northeast Thailand, as well as Laos, Laab refers to a ground meat salad made with lots of fresh herbs and aromatics. And I'm delighted to report that this plant-based version has all of the incredible flavors of Laab that I remember eating when I backpacked there many years ago. I've got a block of super firm tofu, and I'm just gonna crumble it into pretty small pieces. You're aiming for about the size of a blueberry. For our aromatics, we're gonna start by thinly slicing a large shallot, finally chopping 4 garlic cloves, and our last one is lemongrass. Start by peeling the papery outer layers first, and then you can slice off the top section, which should feel hard to the touch. With the remaining tender section on the bottom, you wanna smash down on it to release those essential oils, and then finally chop or mince it up. If you can't find fresh lemongrass, you can omit it, or if you have something like a powdered lemongrass like this, you can add a little bit of that to the sauce, which we'll make shortly. One of the most classic ingredients in Laab, which gives it this incredible, unique, toasty, popcorny aroma and flavor, is toasted rice powder. Typically, it's made with a glutinous rice. Sometimes it's called sticky rice in Thailand and Laos. But if you don't have that, it works great with jasmine rice, so just use what you have. You want to get a frying pan over medium-low heat for a minute or 2, and then add in 2.5 tablespoons of rice. Once you start to see a little bit of color on the rice, that's when you need to start stirring constantly so that the rice doesn't burn. The rice is done when it is golden brown like this, and you smell a really lovely popcorny-like aroma. Let this cool for a few minutes, and then we can grind it into a coarse powder. And that's gonna give you some interesting texture in the final dish. And if you don't have a spice or coffee grinder, you can do it the old-fashioned traditional way with a mortar and pestle, but be prepared for a bit of an arm workout. It'll take you 4 or 5 minutes. Before we cook this stuff, let's make our dressing. It's just a few ingredients, but each one is very high impact and is super delicious. Oh, this is an arm workout too. Oh! A lot of freshly squeezed lime juice. Laab is very bright and citrusy, so we're gonna be pretty generous. Laab is supposed to be pretty spicy, so I'm gonna be somewhat generous with these Thai roasted chili flakes. But of course, you can always start with a little bit and add more to taste. And if you don't have these, no worries. You can also try using fresh chilies, just mince them up. Laab pretty much always has fish sauce. Luckily, there are some vegan alternatives you can find on the market. If you don't want to use that or don't have access to it, you can use soy sauce for something a little less traditional, but you want to use a bit less of that. A little bit of brown sugar. Laab in Thailand tends to be a touch sweet compared to versions in Laos. I think the sweetness adds really great balance here. The last ingredient in our dressing is one of my favorite ever things. These are fresh makrut lime leaves. They add this incredible, unique, citrusy, zesty flavor. If you don't have them, no worries. You can just zest one of the limes before you juice it and add a teaspoon of the zest to the dressing. The leaves have this thick center rib in the middle, so you want to strip that out first, and then you can finally mince the leaves. It's time to start cooking, so you want to get a large frying pan over medium-high heat for a few minutes. Spread the tofu out in a single layer, and then let it cook undisturbed for about 3 minutes so it can start to develop some color on the bottom. Then give everything a toss, and you want to stir only every 60 to 90 seconds so the tofu can crisp up and brown a bit. It should take about 10 minutes total. Once it's golden brown in most spots, we can transfer it to a bowl, wipe out the pan so we can use it again, a little more oil, and then medium heat, we're going to add in the sliced shallots. These should take about 2 minutes to soften, and then we'll add in the garlic and lemongrass. You want to keep stirring so nothing sticks or burns until you no longer smell that raw garlic. And then just add that to the tofu mixture. Cut it. Laab typically has lots of fresh herbs, so I'm going to chop this pile of mint and cilantro, thinly slice some scallions, and then we'll assemble everything. Pour the dressing right in there, get everything nicely coated, and then we can add all of this freshness right in. The Laab is super delicious on its own, but my favorite way to serve it is to add some sticky rice to a lettuce cup and add the Laab on top. It has all the flavors I love: limey, lemongrassy, spicy, a little sweet, savory, salty, and it is so good for hot weather. Our next recipe, also great for hot weather, we're making a vegan egg salad sandwich. I get it, vegan egg salad sounds like an oxymoron, but this version, I promise, has pretty much everything you associate with egg salad: that creamy richness, soft little bites, and that mustardy, pickly tang. We'll get started by draining our block of firm tofu and then just slicing it lengthwise into 4 slabs. I like using firm tofu here because it's soft enough to feel like hard-boiled eggs without being so soft that it will fall apart in the sandwich. And you want to press the tofu for 15 to 20 minutes with a heavy and, might I say, gorgeous cookbook. While the tofu presses, we can make our dressing, which is going to flavor the tofu and make it taste like egg salad. Like a classic egg salad, we're gonna begin ours with some mayo. This is my favorite vegan mayo. 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard, as well as dill pickle relish, classic egg salad flavor. 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, which is gonna bring a savory umami flavor, and a 1/4 teaspoon each of turmeric and paprika, which will add a really nice color. And of course, some black pepper. And our last ingredient is kala namak, aka Indian black salt. This is gonna give the egg salad that classic sulfurous eggy flavor. If you've made my tofu scramble before, you know how powerful it is and how much it can make tofu taste like eggs. So try not to skip this ingredient. Finely chop a handful of chives or scallions, either one works, and do the same thing for a small handful of fresh dill. Normally I just stick the dill and the chives and the capers in a food processor and have that take care of it very quick. But today we're keeping things old school. A sharp knife works great as well. Red onion, totally optional, but if you have a wedge hanging out in your fridge like I do, you can finely dice that up and it's gonna add a nice sharp crunch to the salad. Time to slice our tofu. Start by slicing each slab lengthwise into 4 slivers. Then you can flip them over onto their flat sides and slice in half again, so you end up with 8 slivers per slab. And from here, I like to slice the tofu into pea-sized, tiny little cubes. It takes maybe a minute or 2 more than if you were to crumble the tofu by hand, but this way you get a really nice texture that's pretty similar to classic egg salad. Gently fold the tofu into the dressing, taking care to not crush it because tofu is delicate. And while you can eat this now, if possible, I recommend marinating it for even as little as 30 minutes in the fridge for maximal flavor absorption. Our egg salad is done resting. The best way to serve it is in a sandwich, and the best sandwich requires really excellent bread. So today I have a few slices of the sourdough sesame seed loaf from Wild Grain, the sponsor of today's video. If you are like me and you love good bread, but you don't have the time or the patience to bake it from scratch, Wild Grain was designed for you because they deliver slow fermented breads that are made in actual small bakeries, along with fresh pastas directly to your doorstep. All you have to do is pop a loaf out of the freezer, put it in the oven, and voila, you have fresh baked bread that is so much better than anything you can get at the grocery store. As you can imagine, I'm a big fan of the vegan box, but you can try Wild Grain out for yourself and customize it to your needs. Check out the link in the description box below. You can use code Nisha at checkout and save $30 off your first order. You can also get free croissants for life, which is fantastic because they have some really delicious vegan croissants. You can just spread this egg salad on your bread and call it a day, but to take the sandwich over the top, I like to make a little avocado spread. You just mash up a ripe avocado and season it with salt and pepper, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. Spread this across your bread, and now add any sandwich fixings you like. I've got some heirloom tomatoes today, plus cucumbers and pickled onions, but I also love adding pickles when I have them, and then the egg salad goes on top. This is so pretty. I am a little worried about eating this. I went for the open-faced sandwich for looks, but it feels dangerous. We'll see how it goes.
pot.
Honestly, I'm not even mad at how messy that was because the sandwich is phenomenal. The flavor from the egg salad plus the toppings and the sesame sourdough, it's so good together. And you can meal prep the egg salad, store it in your fridge for up to 5 days, take it for your weekly lunches, or pack it in your kids' lunch boxes. Speaking of children, our next recipe is also very kid-friendly. We're making crispy tofu tenders. Fun fact, I developed this recipe for my cookbook, Big Vegan Flavor, but I had to cut out a bunch of recipes. So 5 years later, I thought it was finally time to share these because they are very fun. I've got a block of super firm tofu, and the first thing we'll do is slice it in half crosswise. From here, you're gonna flip it onto its taller side and then slice downward into 3 planks. From here, you can just slice these in half. Gently press down on the tofu with a towel to remove any excess moisture. And I will say super firm tofu is ideal here if you can find it, as it's chewy and a little meaty, but if you cannot find it, you can use extra firm tofu. The first step for our tofu is to dunk it in a buttermilk-like mixture. I've got 1/3 cup of soy milk. And to infuse some salty umami flavor into this, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of better than bouillon, no chicken base. But this stuff won't dissolve in cold liquid, so I'm gonna heat up the milk in the microwave for about 45 seconds. If you don't want to use this ingredient, you could just add a few pinches of salt to season the milk. And to mimic the tang of buttermilk, we'll add in a 1.25 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. You can set this aside. You will notice that the milk starts to curdle pretty quickly. That's from the proteins in the soy milk, and that's a good thing. That is what we're looking for. For the breading on the tofu, you want to grab a shallow bowl or a pie plate. We're going to start with some stone ground cornmeal. A medium grind or stone ground cornmeal is ideal, so you get a little bit of texture. And we're going to use 3.5 tablespoons or 34 grams. And then we'll add in some potato starch. This, along with the cornmeal, is going to give the tofu a crisp coating while remaining gluten-free and with no need for deep frying. Just a few other seasonings. We've got some nutritional yeast, garlic powder, oregano, smoked paprika, and onion powder. I like a little cayenne in mine. It adds just a subtle kick, but again, if you're making this for kids who can't handle any heat, feel free to skip it. We're also adding in some cane sugar. This is gonna help balance the flavors and also help it brown as it cooks. Some freshly cracked black pepper and kosher salt to season. Give everything a whisk with a fork and make sure to get all the little clumps of starch out. We're ready to coat our tofu tenders. I find it helpful to have everything arranged like so. So you want to dip a tofu slab into the milk mixture, make sure to get all the different sides, then drop it into the breading and make sure you fully coat it on all the sides. You're probably going to need to double coat any wet spots. And then once it looks nicely coated, you can place it on your cutting board and repeat with the remaining tofu. This is going to be a little messy regardless, but to minimize the mess, I recommend using one hand for the milk and reserving the other for the breading. No crossover between the hands. We're ready to cook, so you want to grab a large frying pan, heat it for a few minutes over medium-high heat, and then add in a few tablespoons of olive oil. Now reduce the heat to medium. This is important so the breading doesn't burn. And cook the tenders on the first side for 3.5 to 4.5 minutes or until they are golden brown like this.
Look at that!
A small offset spatula like this is really useful for flipping these. And the second side is gonna cook faster, maybe 2 to 3.5 minutes. And finally, you wanna get those thinner sides as well. Those need a minute or less, so don't cook them for too long. Transfer these to a wire rack and let them cool for about 5 minutes. To serve these tofu tenders, I've got 2 different dipping sauces. A sriracha mayo, super simple. I'll include a recipe for it right here. And then if you have a few more minutes, I highly recommend trying my vegan ranch dressing. I'll link to that in the description box below. These taste like fast food, but elevated, so much nice crunch. The tofu is perfectly cooked and there's so much flavor in that breading. You can get all 3 recipes from today's video in the description box below. I hope you love them. Let me know in the comments which one you try first, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!